Good morning, all of you. So we'll be starting with our first session. Our first speaker is Dr. Wei-Chung Hwang from Institute for Information Industry, Taiwan. Dr. Wei-Chung Hwang is the Deputy Director General of Digital Transformation Institute, Institute for Information Industry of Taiwan, and the liaison officer of APKIC, that is Asia PKI Consortium, to FIDO Alliance. He leads the development of open data, data privacy, and electronic authentication projects in Taiwan under the sponsorship of Ministry of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Science and Technology, and Board of Science and Technology. He works with government, enterprise, and community to advance the development of electronic authentication technologies and explore the value of open data, personal data with the adoption of data-centric approach. Sir is also the executive committee member of Open Data Alliance Taiwan and member of advisory consultation committee for several government agencies regarding to digital signature, electronic identification, and open data. I request sir to address.
Okay, thank you. And good morning, everyone. Okay. It's my great honor to be here to present the status update on the new application of public key technology in Asia. And you know that I am from Institute for Information Industry of Taiwan, and also I am served for APKI Consortium, APKC, and be the liaison officer of APKC to FIDO Alliance. So this is my the agenda of my presentation today. The first one, a short introduction about APKC, and then I will provide some background. It's my idea, the new development of public key technology and the relationship of public key technology to some applications such as authentication, identification, and also digital signatures. And the third part is I will provide some current status of the new developments in Asia countries. Because I'm from Taiwan, so I will give more detail on the Taiwan side and with some update on the other countries. And finally, I will conclude my presentation with some of my idea how we can go forward in the future. So first of all, this is the background of the APKC. APKC was founded in 2001, and when we back to 2001, that almost all of the Asia countries starting to set up their national PKI infrastructure, and also most of the national PKI regulation or legal framework was developed since 2000. So at that time, we all know that it's very important how we work together to promote the development of PKI across Asia countries. Right now, there are more than 10 countries, and with a lot of members from every Asia countries. Also, the members of APKIC are not from governments, but almost every members of APKIC have a strong support from governments. So as we know that, we also thank to the CCA of India, which also play a very important role to support the development of APKC. And the major objective of APKC is to promote the adoption, awareness, and the interoperability or the mutual recognition of PKI. And currently, the APKC have three major working groups, and BAWG, TSWG, and LPWG. And I will provide some detail of the working groups later. And recently, the APKC also have registered an office in Hong Kong. So this is the governance and the membership of the APKC. Right now, we have chaired by Mr. Srivanasan from India, and with three vice chair from Hong Kong, Mr. William Ji, and from Iran, Ms. Ali Rabari, and also from ETD of Thailand, Chachana. And as I said, that there are members from more than 10 countries and the Asia countries, from East Asia and also from South Asia and also from Middle Asia. And right now we are also developing many other membership in other area or countries. So as I said, that there are three working groups under APKC. The first one is the BAWG, the Business Application Working Group, which was chaired by Ms. Karen from Taiwan and also Mr. Vijay from India. The purpose of BAWG is to resolve cross-domain and cross-region issues for the adoption of PKI and also to promote the exchange and the collaboration between members and to explore and enrich the information, application, and IT-enabled services. The second working group is LPWG, the Legal and Policy Working Group, which was chaired by Mr. Gordon from Hong Kong. The purpose of LPWG is to influence interoperability initiatives between countries and to advance the collaboration with governments and related industries, and also to produce policy papers and regular awareness among the members. The last one was the TSWG, the Technology and Standard Working Group, which was chaired by Mr. Vijay from India. The purpose of the TSWG was to standardize and make technical advancement of PKI technology and to work on PKI technology and the other emerging technologies, such as an IoT, blockchain, and etc., and to help bring technical platform together for members, and finally to produce white paper and case studies. So let's go to the background of my presentation. That traditionally we tend to think that PKI can do everything, but right now, and we know that there are more new applications that need not only PKI, but need other mechanisms supported by public key technologies. So there are three major applications we are talking about. The first one is e-authentication, which is more technical aspect. The issue of authentication is how to identify an account of the user. So the system may not be able to know the real identity of the user, but the system has to know the related account that the user is using. So this means authentication. And the other one is identification. Identification includes authentication, but also includes the verification of the real identity of the user. And the next one is the signature, which means in the real world, we need to sign a document, or in some countries, such as Taiwan, we have stamp. And when we have some kind of contract, we need to put the stamp on the document. So in the digital world, this means signature. So traditionally, we tend to use one PKI system and to solve all the problem to be able to do the authentication, identification, and the signature. And of course, PKI is very important, and all these three major application was also very important and very critical. For all the applications, we know that the public key cryptography or public key technology is the foundation. we know that right now every internet services or every internet transaction will support by the public key cryptography. And based on the public key cryptography, we have the public key infrastructure, which means there is one additional role, the third party, the certificate authority, which will make sure the public key or the user can be linked to a real identity. So we know that the public key technology, the public key cryptography is the most important foundation. And based on the public key cryptography, we have the public key infrastructure, but we also have many other applications which may not be related to public key infrastructure. That means that we may, in some time, we may use public key cryptography, but we don't need a certificate authority. But instead, we need some other mechanism to authenticate a user or to identify a user. So when we are talking about the public key technology, we have to make sure that the target of the application is for authentication or for identification or for the digital signature. So the first one is use public key technology for identification and authentication. Right now, we know that there are many very mature international standards to define the procedure and define the technology of the identification and authentication, include the ISO 29115. It's a very important fundamental standard for digital identification and for digital authentication. And based on the ISO standard, we have two other systems. The left side, the EU, the Europe, they have developed their own standard for identification and authentication. It's eIDAS. And it's a very important foundation for the EU digital economy. And the right side, in the United States, the NIST already have another standard. It's a NIST SP 863. And right now, the NIST is also revising this standard. So based on the international standard and the EU standard and also the standard of the United States, there are many other industrial standards which try to provide a more detailed or more practical technical implementation for how to implement a system that could be compliant to international standards. So as we see that we have, that's why starting to year 2012, we have the FIDO Alliance, which is more focused on the digital authentication and the digital identification. And also, we also have the WCCC and also OpenID, which provide many technical technical detail on how to implement a convenient and a secure identification and authentication system. And so actually, all these standards could be compliant or can be based on each other. So as we can see that the ISO standard and the NIST standard and the eIDAS standard all could be mapped to each other based on some different security level between each others. So so we can say that for digital authentication and digital identification, right now they are very mature and many technical and policy standards on how to implement the system very secure and very convenient. And we can say that most of the systems are based on public key technology. For example, the standard from FIDO Alliance, they are based on the public key technology. They don't emphasize that we need a certificate authority, but the vital to use the public key technology to provide a very secure foundation of the digital authentication and digital identification. And the other side, when in some times that we need a signature that just like in the physical world, we need to sign a document that we have the electronic or digital signature. For the digital signature right now, it's more complicated than authentication or identification because it's the signature or the electronic or digital signature is very depends on the local regulations. So right now we can see that every country or every region have their own regulation, and here I provide some just sample of how the governments they regulate the digital or electronic signature. The left side is Taiwan, the country where I'm from. But in Taiwan, that there are two kinds of the signature. The first one is the electronic signature, and the next one is the digital signature. As we can see that in Taiwan, the electronic signature could use any technology. So you can use some kind of any technology other than PKI or other than public key technology. That could be the electronic signature. But for digital signature, you must use the public key infrastructure technology. So this is for Taiwan. And for eIDAS, we know that there are 3 levels for the digital signature: basic, advanced, and qualified. And only for advanced or qualified signature, we need to use PKI or use the public key technology. And for United States and for Korea, as I will provide some more detail about Korea, they just revised their electronic signature law that any kind of technology could be used in the electronic signature. So as we see that different country or different area have different regulation for digital signature and for electronic signature, and some country they need the authority, the company or the enterprise to be approved or licensed by the government to be able to provide the service for digital signature. For example, in Taiwan or in Korea, no matter what kind of technology you use, you have to get license from government to be able to provide a service of digital signature. As I know that in India, we also need to get the license from the government. So it's an overall picture that here is some current status that how Asia country they set up their national PKI regulation, and also how they develop their national PKI system. So we can say that most Asia country we all have the national PKI system, and we also have our digital signature regulation, and starting from year 2000. And in some countries, we also need to mandate some kind of application that need to use the PKI or need to use the technology that was endorsed by the government. So as we can see that, for example, in China, in India, in Taiwan, the government requests some kind of applications need to use PKI or need to use the system or the technology endorsed or approved by government. But in the other country, the government didn't request that. So you can use any technology that, and all the governments have other regulation to define the security of the applications. So So in the following slides, I will provide some example from Taiwan and also from Korea, how the government's response to such kind of regulation or response to some development of new technologies. So the first one is Taiwan. In Taiwan, we know that starting from year 2000, and together with the development of the digital signature regulation, the Taiwan government also set up the national public key infrastructure. This infrastructure has been there for more than 20 years. So in Taiwan, we have the government PKI, and also we have the financial PKI. So it's a two independent system. The government PKI is used for e-governments, and the financial PKI was used for the financial applications. So it has been there for more than 20 years. And right now, there are a lot of users. For example, the government PKI, we have more than 6 million users. And for the financial PKI, with more than 4 million users. This has been the status for many years. So starting from 10 years ago, the national PKI system just stay there and just don't have too much new progress or new development. So it's a very traditional and very long time. We can say that it's almost a very legacy system for the national digital infrastructure. But however, in recent years, the government aware that the citizen need one system that is more convenient, with better user experience and more friendly, especially in the mobile phone, because we know that the PKI in Taiwan, the government PKI need to use a smart card, and to be able to use the smart card, we need a card readers, which is not so convenient for users. So the government aware that we need another system that provide some more convenient services for digital authentication or digital identification. So starting from 2019, the government the Ministry of the Interior starting to develop the authentication system for government. We call it Taiwan FIDO system. So right now, the Taiwan FIDO system has more than 10 used by more than 10 government agencies and with many government services. For example, the online voting of shareholders, and also the tax filing. In Taiwan, the tax filing before Taiwan FIDO, the tax filing can only used by PKI, but after Taiwan FIDO, the citizen can use the Taiwan FIDO on their mobile phone to be able to do the tax filing, and also the user can also use Taiwan FIDO to download their personal data collected by the government. And starting from next year, because as I showed that in Taiwan, the PKI system have two parts. The one is for e-government, and the other part is for financial applications. So for starting from next year, the FSC is the Financial Supervisory Council just announced the roadmap of fintech development, and in such roadmap, the FSC revealed the idea of adopt FIDO to be used in the financial transactions to provide a very convenient authentication mechanism to users. So right now, the user can just use some convenient method to do some financial transactions, which is not so the amount of the transaction is not so high. So we call it the low risk financial transactions. So the roadmap just adopt the FIDO standards. And right now there are some key measures that the government try to form some kind of alliance to promote to let the financial institution to be able to work together to form an ecosystem to adopt the FIDO standards in the low to medium risk financial services. So this is the speech delivered by the director Ms. Hu of the Financial Supervisory Council in the FIDO APEC seminars. And in this seminar, Director Hu revealed the plan of the Taiwan Financial FIDO initiative. Right now, the Taiwan Financial FIDO initiative has more than 100 participants and with 3 committees. And also, the plan is to use the ATM card to enable a FIDO account. And also, there are 2 approaches. The first approach is a centralized approach, in which approach some organization or some agents will set up a central system for all financial institutions. And in the right model, the government didn't set up a central system, but just encourage the financial institution to work together to develop their system. So right now there are many, there are some more than 10 financial company, financial institution just work on such kind of idea. So the second one is about Korea. So as we know that Korea is also very aggressive to promote their national PKI system. So as we know that between 2018 and 2020 in Korea, the government already issue the certificate authorities already issued more than 30 million certificates to Korea citizens. But starting from 2020, the government just start to revise their regulation. So here is the main change of Korea's and electronic signature law that before the revision, only authorized certificate authority had legal effect, and only PKI can be used to do the digital signature. But after the revision, all technologies could be used, and all private sector can serve as the authority to provide the digital signature services. And there is no some other limit to be able to be the CA. So as we know that this new revision had been take effect since last year. So right now there are more than 15 enterprise or organizations that submit their application to be the qualified authority under the new electronic signature law. And some of them still use PKI, but some of them did not use PKI. They use other technologies. So the final one is Macau. That in Macau, the Macau government just launched a common access account system, and also we know that in Macau and Hong Kong, the government issued the smart card to every citizen. So the PKI demands for governments and for digital signature is very high, and also the Macau government is also very aggressive to have the mutual recognition between China and between Hong Kong and between Macau. So this is some more detail about the development of Macau. It's a new regulation and a new system for digital identity. So Macau had revised their electronic government law and also try to upgrade their digital identity services based on their cloud-based PKI services. And the new service will launch has been launched on 2020. Okay, so in the list, I will provide some of my new idea that traditionally we think that everyone should be driven by governments. But right now we can see that there are some new technology or some new initiative that are driven by the consumer technology or consumer companies. So based on such kind of new developments, I think that we need a more comprehensive, and we need to work with the industry to work together to develop a more convenience and more secure technologies for not only for digital signature, but we should also consider how to provide some more convenient mechanism for digital authentication or digital identification to citizens. Okay, so this is my presentation today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.